Greetings to all of you and welcome to this previous year question series. It is a continuing series and we are going to today in our session conclude the discussion on the previous year questions on polity. My name is Ankit Sharma. I am your instructor for this course. The first question that we take today is related to the constitutional form of government. Now, it has been the case that in the previous questions also we have discussed this idea somewhat, and we are going to continue developing our understanding and concepts from that question to solve this question also. It says this: a constitutional government is one which A, places effective restrictions on individual liberties in interest of state authority, or B, places effective restrictions on state authority in the interest of individual liberty. Now, this is a very simple question to look at because for one reason that we have already discussed the very idea of constitution itself in our previous agreements. What we have seen is that a constitution is in principle or by definition an action by which the authority of the political parties, the political powers is limited by the rule of law, which means to say that the constitution and the laws are superior to the whims and fancies and deliberations and ideas and worldviews of political party, right? So when the political parties are in power, more precisely to say executive power, then there is a need to limit the exercise of such power, and that very need gives rise to something called the constitution or a constitutional government. So the correct answer over here is indeed A. Let's discuss A. Places effective restriction on individual liberties in interest of state authority. This is incorrect because it is arranged in a reverse order. Okay, the order over here is incorrect of arrangement. The correct ordering is B. Places effective restrictions on state authority in the interest of individual liberty. This is indeed the correct answer to this question. As we have discussed in our ideas before, that it is always the individual which the constitution is trying to keep as the last point of understanding and saving within the constitution scheme of things, which means that it is always assumed that the state is going to be used by political powers to encroach upon the freedoms of the individual. Therefore, the constitutional processes should be made in a way which save the individual from the tyranny or authoritarianism of the state, right? So that is the meaning of the constitutional form of government. Now, one thing to understand is that this kind of a question is asked over and over again, meaning this idea or this theme or this, this concept is repackaged differently and asked over and over again. We have seen this in our previous discussions also, and there is a very good possibility that this theme is going to be repackaged again in the coming prelims examination. So please remember, a constitutional form of government is one that tries to protect the individual from the over excessive use of authority and power by a state agency, okay, by a political power occupying the state agency. That is the idea of a constitutional government, okay. This is, I think, pretty clear, and be sure to see a question like this year. The other question, the last question that we discussed in our series is an interesting question. The Attorney General of India can, number one, take part in the proceedings of the Lok Sabha. Number two, be a member of the committee of the Lok Sabha. Number three, speak in the Lok Sabha. And number four, vote in the Lok Sabha. Now, you have to identify which of them are correct, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. There is another set of question which follows after that, which arranges it as A, 1, 2, 3, or B, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. So the idea is we have to identify which of the following are correct or which of the following is incorrect, right? So you can pause your video and take a look at this question right now and try to solve it. Okay. So one thing that we can take an understanding at this point of time is this, that the Attorney General of India has the same status, remuneration, and let's say social symbolism as a cabinet minister. which means to say that a cabinet minister, you know what a cabinet minister is. Cabinet minister is the most important part of the council of ministers, except for the prime minister. So these are the ministers which are heading our ministries, which take executive decisions and call upon what kind of orderings have to be made by the executive authorities of the country, right? So cabinet ministers and the attorney general have the same principal status in the eyes of the constitution, and hence enjoy the same kind of powers within the house. But there is one key distinction. The one key distinction is that attorney general is not necessarily supposed to be a part of the parliament. That is what makes the difference. You know what I'm trying to indicate at? This is a kind of a, revelation of understanding a concept from this very simple looking question. These all powers are available to the cabinet ministers also. But not all these powers are available to the attorney general. One of these powers is not available to the attorney general. But at the same point of time, in terms of status, the attorney general is considered equivalent as a cabinet minister. Why does that happen? That happens because it becomes a necessity in a parliamentary democracy to have the cabinet ministers also become a part of the legislature, so that the legislature can ask questions from the cabinet ministers and hold them accountability. And that is why they also get to have a vote in the legislature. They have a voting power in the legislature. See, I'm constructing a very fundamental logic to something that you have known commonsensically until now. It is possible in certain polities that the attorney general and the cabinet ministers both have to be a part of the parliament, and even the attorney general can be asked questions from the parliament can ask the questions from the attorney general. It is perfectly possible in a polity. Or in another polity, it is possible that the cabinet ministers are not answerable to the parliament, just like attorney general is not answerable to the parliament. But at the same point of time, we see in Indian polity, in the Indian constitution, that the cabinet ministers are essentially the same status as attorney general, but with one exception and one fundamental difference, that they are supposed to answer to the parliament. They are supposed to be held accountable in front of the parliament by the parliament, which gives them the right to vote in the Lok Sabha. This is the correct interpretation. Okay, so it is true for a cabinet minister, but it is not true for the attorney general. Attorney general can take part in the proceedings of the Lok Sabha, just like a cabinet minister can take part in the proceedings of the Lok Sabha. He can be a member of a committee of a Lok Sabha, just like a cabinet minister can be a member of the committee of a Lok Sabha, and he can speak in the Lok Sabha, just like a cabinet minister can speak in the Lok Sabha, but he cannot vote in the Lok Sabha, unlike a cabinet minister, because it is required by constitutional mandate that the cabinet ministers shall be held accountable, which means to say the attorney general is not accountable to the parliament. This is what is the key feature that I want to impress upon you. So the correct answer here would be 1, 2 and 3. 4 is incorrect. Okay, what is the, if I were to draft this theme again into a question, I can ask a question like this. Is it true that the attorney general is also or can also be held accountable by the parliament? Is it true? Now, by this definition, you know that though he enjoys the same status as a cabinet minister, the attorney general need not have any accountability before the house of the people, which means that it is not supposed to be accountable to the parliament. Okay, so this is, these are very trivial but very important and elegant nuances that we understand while we read the Constitution of India. And once we understand why does the need arise for a certain kind of a theme or a requirement or a necessity for keeping things in a certain way, we are able to grasp that idea easily and never be at the mercy of memorization, right? So wonderfully this makes important things, relevant things absorb in our memory without any need for rote memorization. Okay, that's the idea that we try to pursue over here. So these are the two questions that we discussed today, and with this I conclude the series on the previous year questions in polity, and I wish you all the best for your examination. Do well and please keep in touch. Thank you for your time and patience.